Have you ever felt persecuted for no real reason? Have you ever noticed that when you try to walk in the truth, the people around you start looking at you with suspicion, as if you were the problem? Maybe you have lived situations in which, without having done anything wrong, you found yourself in the center of gossip, accusations, and misunderstandings. You are not alone. This happens because those who walk with God brings light, and the light annoying those who live in darkness. Jesus, Christ said it clearly, "If the world hates you, know that before you hated me." John 15:18. But here is the most surprising part. Those who try to destroy you in an attempt to discredit you will end up destroying themselves. It is a spiritual law. Manipulators use lies, deceptions, and distortions of reality to drag you into the mud, but their own obsession betray them. They need to keep their version of the facts standing. Others must continuously convince, but at some point people start asking questions. Why do they always talk about him? If it were really guilty, wouldn't it be enough to let the truth speak for itself? And that's where the masks begin to fall. The Bible is clear. There is nothing hidden that it should not be revealed. Luke 12:2. Those who turn into the shade today will not be able to do it forever. God unmasks the deceptions and brings the truth to light in His time. Today you will discover because the people who want to destroy you cannot keep their lies and how divine justice operates in ways that the world does not understand. If you have ever suffered injustice, if you've ever heard the weight of false accusations, you have to listen to the end. What you will discover today will not only give you peace, but will show you how God transforms the most painful tests into silent and definitive victories. Prepare because your faith will be strengthened and your soul will find rest in this powerful truth. If you believe that God is your defender and you want to find out how the truth always triumphs, stay with me until the end. And don't forget to leave your experience in the comments. Have you ever experienced a situation in which the lie collapsed by itself? I want to know your story. There are moments in life in which it seems that every step you do is observed by hostile eyes, ready to grasp every minimal imperfection to use it against you. It is a hard reality, but familiar to anyone who walks with God and has decided to live in truth. Jesus Christ Himself was persecuted not for having done evil, but for having proclaimed the good. John 15:18-19. The Bible warns us that those who choose to follow the light inevitably will attract darkness, since the world hates what cannot control. The manipulative people driven by envy, pride, or fear try to destroy those who bring the truth, just as the Pharisees tried to discredit the Messiah. The strategy of manipulators is subtle because they rarely attack openly. They begin with whispers, insinuations, half-truths, and lies cleverly intertwined. They try to sow doubts, to put others against you, creating a narrative that paints them as victims and you as guilty. This is exactly what the enemies of Nehemiah did when they tried to stop the reconstruction of the walls of Jerusalem. Nehemiah 6:6-9. But those who have faith know that lies cannot prevail over the truth for a long time. God is right and unmask those who turn into the shade. At the beginning, the target of these attacks feels lost. Why who has a pure heart should be seen as a problem? It is difficult to accept that your integrity is questioned without reason. Even Jesus, despite being without sin, was accused of being a blasphemer, a rebel, and even a possessed. Matthew 12:24. But the Bible teaches us that God is not blind before the injustices. Don't fear, because I am with you. Don't get lost, because I am your God. Isaiah 41:10. Faith is our refuge in moments when the world seems to collapse around us. However, there is a great truth that those who walk with God must understand. Those who turn on evil end up falling into their traps. It is a spiritual law. The Bible clearly says, "Those who dig a pit will fall inside you." Proverbs 26:27. The manipulators believe they have control of the situation, but their own deception becomes their condemnation. In an attempt to destroy your reputation, they unconsciously reveal their true nature. Their desperate need to discredit you becomes suspicious in the eyes of others, and so, their lie begins to crumble. But how should we react in front of these attacks? Jesus gave us the perfect example. He did not let himself be dragged into the battle of words. He did not try to defend himself with the same weapons as the enemy. He simply let the truth spoke alone. The Lord will fight for you, and you will be calm about it. Exodus 14:14. This is the key. Do not allow the despair of others to become your battle. Those who have God on his side do not need to fight with the same weapons in the world. Time, faith, and truth will take care of doing justice. At the beginning, the person targeted by lies is often seen as the problem. The manipulator is skilled in creating a narrative that you seem credible, playing with the emotions and insecurities of others. Just as the Pharisees gathered to conspire against Jesus Christ, Matthew 26:59-60, those who turn the evil tissue stories that, initially, seem irrefutable, the world is inclined to believe in the highest voice, to those who know how to use the right words to distort reality. But what the manipulator ignores is that the truth has a power that cannot be tamed. The truth, by its very nature, does not need to be defended with lies or manipulations. It is supported by itself and always finds a way to emerge. Over time, contradictions begin to emerge. The lies intertwine with each other, creating such a complex network that the manipulator itself can no longer support it. Just as King David tried to hide his sin with a series of deceptive actions, 2 Samuel 11. But in the end, he was exposed by the prophet Nathan. Even those who build lies castles will see their works collapse. The community begins to ask questions. If this person was really so terrible, why do they continue to talk about her? Why do they feel the need to constantly reiterate their version of the facts? The truth does not need obsessive repetitions to be believed, while the lie, to survive, must be constantly fed. The Bible teaches us that the devil is the father of lies, John 8:44, and those who build their lives on deception is destined to see their home fall like a structure built on the sand, Matthew 7:26-27. When a manipulator has to correct a lie with another lie, the process becomes increasingly difficult to support. And here is a silent but powerful change. People perception begins to change. The people who first believed blindly in the story told by the manipulators begin to feed doubts, to question the details, to notice the inconsistencies. The truth begins to make people make his way in the hearts, and with it, the light of God arrives. Whoever is on the side of the truth does not need to fear. Writing reassures us. The Lord is close to all those who invoke him, to all those who invoke him sincerely. Psalm 145:18. It is not necessary to fight with the same weapons as lies or fall into the trap of revenge. God himself becomes a mere guarantor of truth and unmasks the works of deception. Faith in him is the rock on which we can rest while the enemy tangles in his own lies. What seems like a moment of injustice is actually the prelude to a silent victory, orchestrated by the sky. And it is precisely at this moment that faith is tested. When everything seems to be against us, when the lies seem stronger than the truth, it is there that God calls us to trust in him. Jesus remained silent before his accusers, Matthew 27:12-14, not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew that the truth does not need to be defended with anger or despair. And you, in these moments, what will you do? Will you let fear consume yourself or rest in the certainty that God is the one who reveals everything in his time? There is an irrefutable truth that many ignore. The obsession with destroying someone else ends up consuming the one who plots evil. The manipulators, blinded by the desire to annihilate their victim, fall into a spiral of self-destruction. Their behavior becomes increasingly evident, almost disturbing. They continue to talk about the same person, to repeat the same accusations, to try in every way to discredit her. But while they do it, whoever observes them begins to ask themselves, why are they so obsessed? If they really won, why do they continue to insist? It is at this moment that their strategy begins to crumble. Just as Haman, in Esther's book, prepared the gallows for Mardocheo and ended up being hanged by him, Esther 7:10, the manipulators also end up falling into their own traps. Deception always has an expiry date. A lie may seem solid for a time, but in the long run it crumbles under the weight of the truth. Those who try to control narrative with manipulation are trapped in a war that cannot win. Let's think of the Pharisees who desperately tried to discredit Jesus Christ. They accused him, put him to the test, tried to catch him in the foul, but every their attempt failed miserably. Luke 20:26. Why? Because the truth cannot be annihilated with human stratagems. When God is with you, there is no evil plan that can prevail. People start to notice the details. If this person were really guilty, why is he still standing? Why do her opponents seem more agitated than her? Why do they continue to repeat the same things without ever bringing new tests? This is how the manipulator betrays itself. His need for attention becomes more important than his own credibility. His obsession with collapse someone else becomes his ruin. The Bible warns us, those who throw evil will collect it. Proverbs 22:8. Those who sow discord and lies will end up collecting destruction in their lives. The believer, on the other hand, must not be dragged into this game. He does not have to respond with the same coin, nor let himself be taken by anger or frustration. Jesus himself taught us, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:44. Why? Because the victory is not in winning a discussion, but in maintaining inner peace and trust in God. Whoever entrusts themselves to divine justice know that time is the greatest ally of truth, and it is precisely here that something extraordinary happens. Those who had been painted as the culprit starts to be seen as the real victim. The people who first believed blindly to lie now ask themselves, we were wrong to judge? The manipulator, instead of destroying his target, isolates himself. His obsession removes him from others. His credibility collapses and his own network of lies suffocates him. God is a God of justice, and those who remain firm in faith will see with their own eyes the ruin of those who operate in deception. The question is now, will you be firm in your faith, or will you let yourself be dragged into the vortex of manipulation? There is a time when narrative changes. What previously seemed like a legitimate and justified attack begins to prove to be for what it really is, an unhealthy obsession. People observe, listen, analyze, and when the truth begins to emerge, those who previously pointed their finger begins to lose credibility. The Bible clearly shows us that everything hidden will come to light. There is nothing hidden that it should not be revealed, nor of secret that should not be known. Luke 12:2. God allows, in his time, the masks fall, and that the real intentions are revealed. The manipulators, in their desperate attempt to control the perception of others, end up making the opposite. They show their true nature. Their obsession does not go unnoticed. Why don't they talk about anything else? Why do they continue to insist? If they have already won, why don't they go on? The community begins to see what previously did not want to see. Just as the brothers of Giuseppe, who sold him for envy, but in the end they found themselves at his feet, repentant and needy of help. Genesis 50:20. Even those who plot evil ends up being deflowered by the natural course of truth. And here the reversal happens. The one who was seen as the problem is now seen under a new light. People begin to remember who he really was, how he lived, as others dealt with. Maybe we were wrong to judge? It is a subtle but unstoppable process. Even Peter, who for fear denied Jesus 3 times, then cried bitterly when he realized the truth. Luke 22:61-62. In the same way, those who had believed in lies start to question their position. At that point, the manipulator is located in front of a crossroads. Admit your mistake or continue to lie. But the truth is that the damage is already done. His isolation is inevitable. Those who live in lies build their prison. His desire to destroy someone else leads him to lose his peace, his relationships, his credibility. Those who move away from the truth also moves away from God, because the liar lips are an abomination for the Lord, but those who act faithfully are welcome. Proverbs 12:22. And now everything is in the hands of God. The right does not need to feel anything, nor to defend himself with anger or despair. Time and truth work together to reveal everything. Those who have confided in the Lord will see justice to manifest themselves. But the real question is, are you willing to fully trust God and let Him fight for you? There is no need to respond to hatred with hatred. The truth has a force that cannot be stopped, and those who live in the light of God do not need to defend themselves with the weapons of the world. Jesus himself, in front of his accusers, remained silent because he knew that the justice of God is perfect. Matthew 27:12-14. The believer does not win with revenge or resentment, but with inner peace and with the trust that God will not allow the lie triumphs forever. The silence of the right is not weakness. It is the proof of an unwavering faith. Manipulation can work for a time, but the masks eventually falls. People begin to see beyond the words and to recognize the truth from the fruits that everyone brings. Jesus taught us, "You will recognize them from their fruits." Matthew 7:16. The man who sows discord will collect division, but those who walk with God will collect peace and justice. And this is the real victory, not the one that the world recognizes, made of apparent triumphs, but the eternal one, which comes from being firm in one's faith, regardless of the circumstances. When the manipulator finds himself alone, surrounded by his own lies, those who remain still in truth can look back with serenity. He didn't have to fight with his strength because he let God fight for him.